About 5 hours ago at the time that I'm recording this video, I uploaded my review of Jujutsu Infinite. And although I was expecting some backlash, since people always don't like it when you have an opinion on the internet, some of the comments really stood out to me. So I wanted to dedicate this video to the comments that I found the most interesting, whether that's because they hate me the most, or because they actually made me think, or because they brought up a good point. So let's get started. I'll be censoring out all usernames and profile pictures of the comments that I mentioned within the video, just because I don't want anyone to get harassed. And this is going to start us off. Stop saying it's a bandit beater when you don't even know what it is. Play Blox Fruit so you can understand it more. Oh my god. You know, the first time I read this, I had a good laugh about it. Now this is the 5th or 4th time that I read it because I'm editing the video, so it's not as funny anymore. But the logic in this comment will never fail to amaze me. You know, it's like, oh, how dare you call Jujutsu Infinite a bandit beater, bitch. Go play Blox Fruits, pussy. That'll put some hair on your chest. You wanna play a bandit beater? Yeah, go play Blox Fruits. And while you're at it, go ask my wife's boyfriend if I can stay up past my bedtime. Because I need to grind Jujutsu Infinite. Because this is not a bandit beater. And don't you dare, ever in your life, open your mouth again with some dumb shit like that. Jokes aside, anyone that denies the fact that Jujutsu Infinite is a bandit beater is coping and is in denial, because Jujutsu Infinite is a textbook definition of a bandit beater. You progress your character by leveling up, by doing quests, which, what do they involve? Beating bandits. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no way around it. That is what the game is at its core. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy bandit beaters, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a genre of Roblox game. It's just personally not my cup of tea, and I'm gonna call it out for what it is. It is a bandit beater. And if you don't think so, I'm sorry, but I really think that you're just wrong. This isn't something that I can really debate you with back and forth. This isn't something where I think we can respectfully disagree with each other. If you disagree with me on this, I wholeheartedly believe that you are wrong. Now let's move on to the next comment. Oh my, this is a long one. Everyone who watched this video, look the channel of this guy. You're literally a tower defense YouTuber. On God, I never seen a worse critic like that. First cash grab in your tower defense game, you can buy rerolls, X2 XP, X2 Mastery, Game Pass Tower Defense are even more cash grab. Second, record 1 hour of anime adventures and 1 hour of Jujutsu Infinite. You can't say your brainless tower defense is more fun. Second, you can't say is easy when you're literally level 3. Bro, try to solo Toji in Nightmare if you really want to play the real game. You have to learn pattern of the boss and all that. The only bad side of the game is level system. After that, when you're literally a tower defense YouTuber, me too. I like tower defense. I'm level 77 on Anime Vanguards, level 215 on AA. I'm side seeker on Deepwoken. I can't say this game is on Deepwoken level, but is horrendous to say this game is bad. When you're a tower defense player, you're a tower defense player. I'm sorry for my grammar. I'm French. Let be for real. You just tried to clip farm on Eclipse opinion. There's a lot to unpack here, so I'm going to go through it rapid fire. Number one, we'll forgive all grammar mistakes since he did say French is his first language, so he's not a native English speaker. Number two, the fact that I am a tower defense content creator, the fact that I make tower defense videos on the channel, does not mean I am incapable of reviewing something. That doesn't mean that I don't have a brain and I can't critically think and look at a game and point at it and be like, this is good, or this is bad. If the entire cruxus of your argument is that I am a tower defense YouTuber, therefore I am not allowed to have an opinion on any other type of game, that is the most ass-backwards logic that I've ever heard, and I do not understand it. Believe it or not, just because I make tower defense videos does not mean that I don't have a brain and that I am incapable of forming an opinion about something else. And most 99.9% of the things that I said in my Jujutsu Infinite review, I still stand by, and I can still very easily prove any of the points that I've made. Besides one, which I will get later. I'll move into that later in the video. You also say that Anime Adventures is a cash grab, and you try to use that as a way of undermining the arguments that I make in the video when I have literally been critical of Anime Adventures in the past. I have a plethora of videos critiquing the game and analyzing its weak points and how it could improve. Never in my life have I denied the fact that Anime Adventures is pay to win, or that it can be a cash grab, or that the bundles are pay to win, or that you can buy X amount of game passes to make your experience a lot better. All of these things are true. But you know what none of these things change? The fact that Jujutsu Infinite is still a cash grab bandit beater. No matter what you say, no matter how you slice it, I am still right. And you can complain that I'm a tower defense YouTuber, and you can call Anime Adventures pay to win. That will not change the fact that Jujutsu Infinite is a bandit beater, and it is a cash grab. And the fact that you are completely ignoring the statement I made to instead focus on attacks on me or attacks on Anime Adventures really shows me all that I need to know about your argument. You lost me from the start. You don't need to be a chef to tell that someone's cooking his ass. You don't need to be a police officer to know it's illegal to go around killing people. You don't need to be LeBron to know he's the greatest athlete to ever touch a basketball. Some things are just common sense, and I'm afraid that's something that your comment might have been lacking. The last point that he makes is that the only reason I made that video was to write off of Eclipse's video, in which he also calls the game a cash grab bandit beater, and I'd like to make it very clear that I was already planning on making a Jujutsu Infinite review way before he uploaded his video. I literally asked my community, hey, do you guys want me to review Jujutsu Infinite? I see it getting a lot of traction. Most people voted yes. Ignore that bottom option. I was already planning on making this video long before he uploaded his. He just uploaded his before me. And sure, we have a lot of similar opinions on the game, but the fact that he made that video and I also made that video don't really have any correlation. Not gonna lie, not directed to you because you're so overly positive, it nearly sickens me, but tower defense players have no right to call this bandit beater when all tower defense games fall under the bandit beater classification, since every enemy is just a reskin of the previous one with more health. First of all, thank you for calling me overly positive, although that might be a little bit of wishful thinking at best. I will have to respectfully disagree with you on two things. Number one, the fact that someone is a tower defense player doesn't mean that they don't have the right to have an opinion on another game. You can still call Jujutsu Infinite a bandit beater and enjoy tower defense games. I don't see the correlation between the two. And second of all, I would argue that some anime tower defense games require a lot more brain usage than it does to get to max level in Jujutsu Infinite. Whereas in Jujutsu Infinite, all you have to do to get from level 1 to 420 is repeat the same missions over and over and over again. You don't even have to use your moves if you don't want to. You could literally M1 everything to death and you will still succeed very, very easily. To make it in the end game of an anime tower defense game, we're going to use Anime Adventures as an example. You're going to have to do a little bit more strategization. For starters, to even beat all of story mode, you're going to need a unit that can hit flying enemies, or else you're just not going to be able to progress. And for things like daily challenges, you're going to want to be taking into account what's the elemental buff, what's the elemental debuff. These things are going to dictate what you do to build your team in order to ensure the higher chance of success. For longer form game modes like the Frozen Abyss dungeon thing for the winter event, you're going to want to make sure that you have a decent farm unit to carry your DPS units into the late game and you actually have enough money to upgrade them. Maybe you're going to want a good slow unit, maybe you want a good buff unit. All of these things have to be taken into account before you actually start up the round in order to ensure that your team can win. And these types of things I cannot say for Jujutsu Infinite. What do I have to worry about when I'm going to fight a boss or when I'm going to do a mission and I'm level 400? Well, does my mouse work? Does my keyboard work? Alright, let's go. That's basically it. But there was one thing that I was wrong about in Jujutsu Infinite, and we're going to talk about that. Also, keep in mind, this little Anime Adventures spiel is just my personal opinion. If you disagree with anime tower defense games not taking as much strategy or being more mind-numbingly brain dead than in Jujutsu Infinite, that is completely your opinion, and we can agree to disagree. I respect your opinion. I'm just not going to see eye to eye with it. Anyways, now we can move on. This is a bit of a two-parter. We have the main comment and the reply. First, let's start with the main comment. I made a point in my Jujutsu Infinite review that one of the reasons that the game was too easy was because the bosses were mind-numbingly easy to beat and you didn't have to do much. And this guy points out that this is only true for the bosses on the easier difficulties. Once you get into things like Nightmare difficulty, the bosses start doing a lot more damage and they do pose a threat and they could actually kill you. I looked more into it and this guy's absolutely right. I was wrong when I said that the bosses were too easy because I did not take into account the difficulties that went, exponentially more difficult. Easy, normal, hard, nightmare, you get it. This guy is absolutely right, and I am wrong. I apologize for not being more informed on that topic before I spoke on it, Then the guy below that says, yes, you have to learn attack pattern of the boss or make strategic build like ratio black flash combo, but he will not understand he a brainless macro YouTuber. Well, first of all, I can't remember the last time I made a macro video. Second of all, you're describing these bosses like they're fucking Melania from Elden Ring. I think you're giving them a little bit too much credit. The quote-unquote memorization of patterns boils down to knowing when to press Q at the right time and knowing when to hold E so you can stay in the air to avoid an attack. And although, yeah, that does mean you do have to memorize some patterns, you're describing it in a way more grandiose way than it actually is. I can't believe it's being compared to Blox Fruits. Only thing similar is bandit beating, and all the Roblox community does is complain if it's not a Battlegrounds game. Jujutsu Infinite is for the most part well thought out. Comparing it to Blox Fruits about anything other than bandit beating is a horrendous stretch. I could draw a lot of parallelisms between Jujutsu Infinite and Blox Fruits, mainly the fact that their monetization systems are both heavily geared to get you to spend as much money as possible, and that both of these games rely on bandit beating mechanics in order to add any quote-unquote depth into their game when there's really not much to do in the first place. Or it could be the fact that both of these games utilize very popular existing anime IPs in order to reel in as many players as possible for the sake of profit. You also kind of answered your own question in your comment. You started off by saying, I can't believe that Jujutsu Infinite is being compared to Blox Fruits. Sure, it's a bandit beater. There you go. You answered your own question. Why is this game being compared to Blox Fruits? Because it's a bandit beater. What is Blox Fruits? A bandit beater. Now, I am well aware that both of these games have a lot of differences that are not hard to point out. But when you're asking the question, why is my favorite game being compared to Blox Fruits? Maybe it's because it's a bandit beater? Nah. What's wrong with bandits beating? It's just to level up to do endgame raids. You can't even do PvP till level 420. Well, in my opinion, that is bad game design, because if I am forced to bandit beat until max level to even PvP, which is the only thing that could be sort of fun in this game, that is lazy game design. And if I'm required to grind out bandits to max level so I can go enjoy some of the harder content like endgame bosses that are on nightmare difficulty, once again, I find that to be lazy and poor game design. Bro, if you don't like it, then don't play. SMH, hop off. This line of reasoning will always be funny to me for one of two reasons. Number one, the only reason I played the game in the first place was to make that review. I need to try out the game that I'm reviewing before I can actually make a video on it. Second of all, I don't purely hate the game. The title for that video is literally called The Good and the Bad, and the bandit beating, but it can't be understated that I openly acknowledge a lot of the strong suits that that game has, and at the end of my video I give constructive criticism as to what I would personally do to improve some of the shortcomings of the game. Am I saying that I'm a game designer and I have a degree in this and I know exactly what I'm talking about? Absolutely not. I am just a fan of these games, giving my input on what I would personally do to improve some of the things that I see lacking in the game. I did not make that video purely out of spite and purely to hate on the game. Far from it. If you watch the video, you'll see that I acknowledge its strengths, I talk about its weaknesses, and I also give my opinions on some things I would do to improve the game. I just don't understand where the logic is. If you don't like this game, then get off of it. Well, that's exactly what I did anyway. After that video, I have not touched the game since, so let's move on. This will be the last comment of the video. Dog, you cannot say this game is bad but then say Deepwoken is good. Like, yeah, this game is piss easy, yeah, this game is super pay to win, yeah, this game is a massive cash grab, but at least this game doesn't want you to grind 30 hours just to die to some exploit or bug and lose all 30 hours of progress, and have to start back again with nothing. Also, saying you don't like the game design of grinding a boss for hours and hours and getting bad drops just to get that one drop you want, but that's, I mean, quite literally Deepwoken. The main difference being in Deepwoken, you could finally get that drop and then immediately die and lose it. And in regards to the missions being just go here, kill curses, again, that's just Deepwoken. You go to a certain area to grind a certain enemy over and over again. This is another one of those comments where they sort of defeat their own argument in the process of writing it. At the start, you tell me, hey, you can't say that Jujutsu Infinite is bad and call Deepwoken good. Yeah, sure, Jujutsu Infinite is a cash grab. Sure, it's a bandit beater. Sure, it's insanely pay to win. And you know what Deepwoken is? None of those things. It is not a cash grab, it is not super pay to win, and it is not piss easy. And that is what makes the game better than Jujutsu Infinite. Now, I know that we're all entitled to our own opinions, and I will respect yours. I will simply respectfully disagree. I heavily disagree that Deepwoken can even be put on the same pedestal as Jujutsu Infinite in any regard. If you think that the game is too hard and you're complaining that, oh, I'm going to lose all my progress, because if I die, it's permadeath and it's over. Number one, Deepwoken nowadays is so extremely easy. It is so hard to wipe in Deepwoken, dude. Unless you are like truly a new player in the game and you don't know what you're doing, like you can't even die if you jump into the void in the depths anymore. What is the real danger of this? You can't die in layer 2 because you have light hook unless you go do Etheron. You can't die in the overworld because you have 2 lives, so unless you go to the depths, then I guess you're at some sort of risk of wiping. A lot of this might just boil down to skill issue. You might just not be very good at Deepwoken. And if you're complaining that the game makes you lose progress after you die, literally says on the cover that it's a permadeath game, and wiping is to be expected. I know I sound like a huge Deepwoken defender here, and I sound like the Deepwoken fan of the century. Here's the thing. I like Deepwoken as much as the next guy. I'm not hugely into it, but I'm sure most people can acknowledge the fact that trying to put Deepwoken in the same level of bandit beating as Jujutsu Infinite is just an outright lunacy. It's a lie. It's not true. Because a single low-level enemy in Deepwoken has more depth and combat variety than any low-level enemy in Jujutsu Infinite. I have to use my brain more to fight a single Sharko in Deepwoken than I have to get from level 1 to 420 in Jujutsu Infinite. It is really just that simple. And even on the aspect of bosses, I'd argue that Deepwoken bosses are leaps and bounds better than any Jujutsu Infinite boss, even on Nightmare difficulty, solely because those bosses require a lot more prior knowledge and game sense to successfully beat on your own. I want you to compare trying to solo a boss in Jujutsu Infinite versus trying to solo Chaser on Deepwoken by yourself. No like crutch items, no conditioned runner, no potions, none of that, just off of knowing how to fight the boss alone. I want you to come back to me and tell me how that went. And that is gonna wrap it up for today's video. I want to make 2 things very clear before I end it off. Number 1, I never made that review of Jujutsu Infinite to shit on the game for fun or because I hated the game. That was never my intent. It was never my purpose. I talk about the good, the bad, and what I would do to improve the game. It was meant to serve as constructive criticism because I don't hate the game. I want to see it improve just as much as any of you guys. The second and final point that I want to reiterate is that if you like Jujutsu Infinite, that is completely fine. All power to you. Don't let anyone's opinion on the internet, whether that be mine or someone else's, dictate your enjoyment of a game. I said that in my review and I'll say it again. If you like the game, by all means enjoy it. We just have different tastes in video games and that is completely fine. I think what's most important is that we can learn to respectfully disagree with one another and have an open dialogue about these types of games. But with all that being said, that is going to be it from me. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Happy New Year's if you're watching this on the 1st of the next year. Stay tuned for more content and we will catch you in the next one.